Hello, this is Paul Ploener, Football Insider, seen on Facebook page, a very popular Facebook page, 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio, and I do break down a lot of your college and NFL games. And this week, I'm going to break down number 22 Syracuse at Wake Forest in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And Syracuse, which I'm an alum of, and I admit that, so I'm kind of biased. They are ranked for the first time since 2013. They are number 22 in the AP poll, and I believe 24 in the coaches poll. And this is quite an accomplishment. And them being 6-2 and 3-2 in the ACC, they are bowl eligible for the first time since 2013. Wake Forest is 4-4 and 1-3 in the ACC. But Syracuse comes into this game as a 4.5 point favorite. And I do want to talk a little bit about last week's game against NC State, which I believed, and I predicted, and I did the breakdown, I believed that Syracuse could win that game. They would win that game. And they did beat NC State 51-41. Very exciting game. A lot of offense. Both teams forgot how to play defense in that game, although Syracuse just scored more points than they did. And, of course, last week I was calling for Coach Babers to start number 13, Tommy DeVito, and I think he would have done a fine job. But they did something with Eric Dungey during the week between the NC State UNC game and the NC State game. Eric Dungey did not look good in that game, the UNC game, and he was benched for Tommy DeVito in the fourth quarter. And Tommy DeVito was the hero of that game and took them to a victory. But if you'll see on the highlights that we're going to provide that Eric Dungey, his technique was so much better this week against NC State. They must have worked with him about getting set in the pocket and getting rid of the ball quickly. He wasn't doing that earlier in the season. He was really moving around a lot, wasn't getting set, and wasn't getting rid of the ball quickly enough and accurately enough. And last week, I would have to say, did a great job, his best job maybe of the year, maybe even his entire career at Syracuse. Over 400 yards passing against NC State, and a 71% completion rate and 3 TDs, and I'm sure he will start this week against NC State. Also, the depth chart, number 21, Mo Neal, and number 4, Dante Strickland, will be starting. Mo Neal has 5 yards per carry and 2 TDs, and number 4, Dante Strickland, has a 4.5 yard per carry average and 6 TDs. And when you get him around the end zone, he just knows how to find pay dirt around the end zone. So Dante Strickland, a senior, both will start alongside Neal at running back. And, of course, number 10, Sean Riley had a breakout game last week against NC State. 10 receptions for 164 yards and really did great. Also, I'd like to talk about number 17, Jamal Costas, the very tall, 6'5" wide receiver, had a good game. And number 82, Nykeem Johnson, had a good game at wide receiver. And all three of them, look for them to have good games against Wake Forest. Wake Forest will allow a lot of points by Syracuse. Wake Forest has averaged 37 points per game this year and is the second worst scoring defense in Power 5 conferences. And look for Syracuse to exploit that and to put a lot of points up on the board. And on defense, Syracuse has some injuries, and I don't really want to talk about it. I don't know exactly who's going to play next week against Wake Forest, this coming week against Wake Forest. So you look for a lot of underclassmen. But on defense, I would like to point out Andrew Armstrong, number 12. He's a linebacker, and he had an interception that really basically put that game away against NC State. The game was close, 44-41. And with that interception, Syracuse had the ball deep in NC State territory, and then Syracuse was able to score a touchdown that basically gave them the nice 10-point cushion that was the final margin of the game. So the Demon Deacons, I don't want to talk about their defense. I mean, it's a hot mess, allowing 37 points per game. But on offense, they are very potent with quarterback Sam Hartman. He's got a 55% completion rate, 14 TDs and 7 interceptions. And running backs, Matt Coburn and number 36, Cade Carney. Both of them have a 5-yard per carry average, and both have 5 TDs. And wide receiver number 3, Greg Dortch, has 60 receptions and 5 TDs. He is an amazing threat at wide receiver. But I look for a high-scoring game. Syracuse at Wake Forest. Wake Forest last week beat Louisville 56-35. They let Louisville score 35 points against them, and Louisville has yet to win a conference game. Syracuse should win this game. My final score prediction, 48 Syracuse for 48, and Wake Forest 28. Look for a high-scoring game and another win for Syracuse. And I look for a good game. So stay tuned, and we'll have more analysis next week.